Oh, here we go. Is this the US?
This is the US. Yes, yeah.
Have a look,
paper.
please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
There is a hardback version of the US edition, but they sent me a paperback. So
It's cool when there's different artwork, right?
Yes.
Because the artwork, like an album cover,
Yep.
like any art, that's another language.
Yeah.
It's a way to bring out more of what is there. That's really nice, isn't it? It's the sunshine. We are just coming out of summer now.
Yes.
And I feel like, I mean, obviously going through the seasons, it's like September is such a specific one, isn't it? It's the smell of hand soap in the primary school. It's the smell of a new wardrobe.
I was literally talking to a friend the other day about school conditioning and how September I always feel like, okay, it's time to pick things up now. Like it's time to get going because of school. I mean, like September is start of the school year. Yeah.
I think there's something in like probably people break up around this time. People get together in this time. People are thinking about new ideas.
Yep, new jobs, new
jobs. What's happening with you at the moment? What's David Larbi's September 2025?
September 2025. The US edition of my book came out.
Yeah.
And the audiobook, which is available worldwide. I had to say that. The correct
having being like online and then having something in literal hardback. Have you been able to kind of convert yourself, or do you look at yourself in a different way, the way you would do staring at a camera to then staring, writing on the page, knowing that there are two different ways of communicating with people?
Massively. I think the process of writing and having this book published has been one of the most affirming things that's happened to me creatively. With creating online and posting online, obviously my face is in pretty much everything, attached to everything, and it feels like everything is very much attached to me. Whereas with this book, someone can come across it, have no idea who I am, and care about it just because they care about what I've written, which that is a kind of creative that if someone likes that kind of thing that I create, that's the most that's super, super, super affirming.
A book can do that, right? It's the theatre of the mind.
Oh, brilliant.
And I said that a few times on the show because it's true, and I love that phrase. Obviously, I'm not the first person to say it, but I think the book does that. You know what it's like picking up a fiction or a non-fiction, whatever it is, where it's like, oh, wow, I see myself in this.
Yeah.
And I see truths that maybe I've found hard to actually look at directly before. There's something, that's magic. There's magic in that.
Yeah. I think especially now where obviously there's so many forms of entertainment that don't take that much kind of to get into. You can always pick up your phone and you can always kind of put something on TV, and you can always do both at once kind of thing. But for someone to have read a book or read my book means that you've actually sat down to put time into this, which is...
There's no small screen and big screen in books, is there? You don't have a little book that you're also reading. 101 Part-Time Jobs, this show's called, and it started off when I was interviewing bands and artists about all the different side jobs they've done, because there's not a lot of money in music ultimately. And what it morphed into, and what I realized about myself, is that we live in this culture where the generation above us, our parents, probably got one or two jobs for 40 years. 101 part-time jobs is now shorthand for our generation. That's kind of my philosophy. When I look at my older brother and sister, 5 and 7 years older than me, I feel lucky that I got to, because they kind of did what my parents told them to do, which was go to uni and get a job. And they hated it, and they realized, oh, this isn't the same world that our parents lived in. So that's something that I feel like young people, millennials, Gen Z, whoever, are kind of coming to terms with. So that's kind of the philosophy of the show. Being online and having communication, that's your career. That, I mean, you've had careers before that. We'll get to that. But finding yourself online and looking at yourself on screen, did you quite quickly find your voice and your tone and what you wanted to talk about when you started, communicating online, i.e. posting online?
I think it took me a minute, just because I had an idea of what I liked and what I wanted to talk about and the things I cared about. And then it took me a second to believe that what I cared about was worth listening to or consuming.
Right. I think that's like a very reasonable...
I think anyone who creates anything, even if you create something you objectively know it's good, the next stage of putting it out there is kind of like you question who cares about this, and then kind of realize you can't have that question answered until you put the stuff out there. So yeah, putting stuff out there in the first place, I think before thinking about it before, that took ages. But then once I started, I just carried on because that's kind of the only way you find your people.
Was there a trial and error stage there?
Yeah, massively, especially after Do you know what? There were 2 trial and error stages. The first one was when I started putting stuff out there and no one was watching it. And then the second was when I started putting stuff out there and people started watching it. Because then there's the question of, okay, people are watching, this is great. How do I keep them around? What do they actually like? What do they want from me?
Yeah.
And then how do I balance that with what I want from myself, what I can continue making? I think it's really hard. And I've like, I know people who this has happened to, and they've done really well to get themselves out of it. But like, when you start making, if you make something that people like, and you don't particularly love making it, and there's something else that you want to be doing, but you're like, oh my God, if I start something new, I would lose all these people. And it's really tough to get out of that too. So I feel like ending up in the place where I am now, where I create things I like, and there are people that like them, that takes several stages of reinvention and discovery. And
it's kind of like the curse of the influencer. And now being a YouTuber, I mean, I just read something in the news that was like, oh, I don't want to just pull a number out my hole, but it was billions that YouTubers brought into the British economy, i.e. YouTubing is like a fully functional, respected, understood career now. You know, that's happened within our lifetime,
which is crazy to think about. And that's YouTube. And YouTube is one of the legacy platforms. That's been I feel like YouTube is maybe one of the platforms that was the first to be like, you can earn a living by posting on our platform.
Yes. Yeah.
Even like the short form, I post mostly short form. I do post long form, but mostly short form. And the short form platforms, it's not exactly the same way. You can kind of
you don't earn from Instagram, do you? But you might earn from shorts.
Yes.
Or you do earn from shorts, but it's a little bit less than.
And same with TikTok, the creator program. If you post longer videos, you can earn from that. But it's not the same as YouTube. Kind of you do big numbers on YouTube, you can earn a living, kind of thing.
You know, I'm to be honest, when these influencers, the word influence first came about, I was a bit of a cynic. I was a bit of a oh my God, because obviously I just didn't understand it. And if you don't understand something, it's easy to hate on it because you don't like knowing that you don't like understanding that you don't understand things. Anyway, I've come to realize that it's a very valid as any other form of self-expression because it's communication. What is a song? A song is communication. That's how I see it. Did you find that at some point? And you're like, okay, you know, this is the way I'm finding a community here. I'm creating a community.
That's exactly how I felt. And I've always described what I do as being a content creator rather than an influencer, because even like once you're in that world, I feel like the nuances are a bit more clear, where for me it's always been the things I make are more important than me specifically, whereas I feel like influencers, really good influencers, kind of are an example of something and set an example for people to follow, which is why they're so good at, I mean, that's where their influence lies, whereas for me, my influence kind of lies in the things that I write and the things that I make. It's kind of, I've written a poem and that's for you to take away and to think about.
Totally.
And the poem is separate from me rather than influencer. It's kind of around them. And both things are very difficult to do. And like you said, it's fantastic. I think it's amazing that those things are being very much legitimized. They're both those things that, like, I don't know, once you're successful at it, it seems like the easiest thing in the world. But then I think most of the labor becomes emotional, whereas before it was kind of going into work or waking up on time and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And then also it's the managing to keep it up as well, because like I said, when you're up, you're up. But then when it's not going well, it's really difficult to manage emotionally, and it's only you who can kind of bring things back up for yourself. Yeah.
I don't want to oversimplify this, but do you find being an influencer outside of book writing, for the sake of this question, do you find being an influencer easy?
I don't find it easy, but I think nothing in life is easy. So, I don't, not in a nihilistic way, it's like life is a difficult thing.
No, it's true. I mean, going to the shops is sometimes hard.
That's what everything comes with some level of it. I think the best that you can hope for is that the difficulty is one of your choosing, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
I've chosen this to be my career because I saw the opportunity here. Yeah. I really love the positive aspects of it. I love connecting with people. I love the fact that I can create things that people care about them. So for me, any difficulty is just part and parcel of it, and to be managed rather than to be erased, if that makes sense. Yeah,
totally. I think that's something that our generation is understanding now, is that we kind of do have, we have too many choices. And so we go to uni and you're told you can go travel in Australia if you save up, and it's like, but then you feel paralyzed because you don't really know what to do, and yet we all have this feeling of, obviously I'm speaking generally here, but I feel like it's fairly agreeable to say that, like, everyone feels like they're running around so much and they don't have time to do anything, but yet they don't know what we don't know what we're running around for. I'm in this as well.
100%. Like everything you do, there's the constant, I could have done this, am I doing the right thing? And you're constantly aware of time ticking away as you're doing the things you're doing. So it's like the pressure of making the right choices and making sure you're doing the right things gets even greater, and it's I think So and that's why I think, you know, when at least I've chosen to do something, I feel like I'm constantly reminding myself of my own agency. It's like, yes, I've done this for a reason. And when I feel those feelings of, should I be doing something else? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Remind myself, you chose this is what you thought you get out of it. Are you getting that out of it? Yes or no? If yes, stop worrying about everything else. If no, you could always change things, kind of thing.
It's never too late, is it?
Never,
and I feel like that's like a real disease. I think a lot of people feel that. I think you have 18-year-olds out there being like, oh no, I've done the wrong thing. It's never too late. Even if you're 65, 75.
Ever. And even, not to do the whole, social media is incredibly, I don't describe it as good or bad. It's just really powerful. Like, it's a really powerful thing. And it can influence basically every aspect of your thinking. It can be there whenever you want it to be there. You could spend all day on it unchecked and not realize you spent all day on it unchecked. And I think we say it over and over again, but I feel like because we've said it, it's kind of lost its message. But the simple fact is that what you see online is two-dimensional. Like, it's not representative of real life. And especially if you go on Instagram, for example, people are posting what they want to be seen, and what people want to be seen on average is the best parts, and is the good stuff.
Yeah.
And especially when you're younger and you kind of see people your own age or your peers doing certain things, and you're like, wow, like, I should be, how come I'm not here? What am I doing wrong to not be here?
Yeah.
No idea what that person's got going on behind the scenes, because they absolutely, everyone has problems. They've absolutely got problems. You don't know what the good things they have came from or what they come with.
Yeah.
And it's just impossible to know any of that for somebody else. So the only thing that you can really do is know all of it for yourself, if that makes sense. Am I happy with my life? Am I happy with what I'm doing? What choices am I making? What choices could I make to make myself happier without, if nobody else existed?
Yeah.
And I could do what I wanted to do, what would I be doing?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. It's really, you have to, it's not enough to do it once. It has to be like a constant, you have to constantly check yourself, which again is really tiring. That's why everything's difficult. You're tired. You're just tired from doing all of that all the time. Equally, life is work. So the work might as well be intentional.
It's a full-time job. It's a full-time job. And when you say that, I think of friendships. I think friendships can make you feel like you can't be the person who you are. Family make you feel like you can't be the person you are. Same with work. What advice would you give to someone who is like, look, I got this idea in my head, but people make me feel like an idiot for it, or even I feel like an idiot for thinking it. Heard this great phrase the other night from Moonchild Sinelli, where they said, they were talking about not having a plan B, but also they were like, just don't give yourself any reason to not do something. Just let it all fall by the wayside. Let all kind of negative thoughts kind of fall by the wayside and just kind of go for it and be delusional.
There's always a reason to not try and do something. It's just that if nothing changes, nothing changes. Like, if there's an idea that sits in your head and lives in your head, the furthest it's ever going to go is your head. And you can even talk about it to the extent that, I think the hardest thing is, if you do anything creative, the hardest thing about having a good idea is that in your head, the idea is perfect. And there's no distance between the idea and outcome. You can imagine the idea perfectly and you can imagine the outcome perfectly. And then the second you bring it into existence in real life, it's a mess.
Yeah.
Because it's the beginning of it. There's a lot of work to be done between, the beginning of the execution and the destination that you're going to get to. And in that space is people doubting you, people not understanding what you want to do, discouragement from friends and family, even if they don't mean to be discouraging, just being misunderstood can feel discouraging. Yeah. Literally the only way anything's going to happen is if you start and get it out there. And at a certain point, you've thought as far as you can think about something. You start to think yourself in circles. There's a point where an idea needs to be brought into existence and needs to be worked on from there. And when it comes to making ideas exist, it's sometimes the people around you, immediately around you, won't understand, but that's because they're not necessarily your target audience. Like I said, social media, for example, is really powerful. Not necessarily good or bad way. It's just very powerful. One of the powers of it is that it connects you with people who are interested in things that you're interested in, who might not necessarily, like, they wouldn't be around you if you were just to go about your day-to-day life. You would be connected with them. Fortunately, because of social media, you can be. So it's everything you're thinking, completely valid, but also doesn't matter at the same time.
Yeah.
Once you've thought about it and you understand that's how you feel about it, the thoughts have lived their purpose, and it's for you to push through them and start doing what you want to do anyway. And also, the worst thing that can happen as well is that if something fails because not many people saw it or not many people listened to it, not many people saw it, not many people listened to it.
That's the funny thing, isn't it? I remember, a bunch of videos I've posted on this show, you get less likes than you think. And I think, oh God, someone's seeing me and they think the show's not a success. Well, they're not seeing it or they're not liking it because they're not seeing it.
Exactly.
And that's kind of a great way that the internet works. You know, it's new. The way the new media works is that it is like a really amalgamation. It's kind of a snowball. Just like put stuff down, right?
Yeah,
the more
absolutely.
you do it, the more people will see it. And you know, I think that goes out to aspiring people in online, but also people who just want to put stuff out there. Everything doesn't have to be like the perfect curated finished product.
And there's just so much value as well in having put so much out there before you get your break. I think when you discover like an artist or a musician or someone who does something creative and you see they've had a long journey to this, I feel like it makes you root for them even more.
Oh yeah,
it's like what you have put this.
You join their team.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even if I wasn't that kind of person, I'm like, wow, you have really put this work in.
Yeah.
Who could possibly deny you this?
Totally.
And it's when there are a few things more impressive. When I say impressive, I don't mean in like you like this is really impressive in a show in a way of showing off. It's more like deeply impressive. Impressive in that it leaves an impression. It's like, wow, you have really, really worked on this for a long time. That's amazing.
I think you can see a band or an artist and there's 20 people in the room. If you get a good feeling from that, that might be as good a feeling as you're ever going to get seeing an artist in a stadium, in an arena. If you're the artist, you can affect 20 people in a more powerful way than you would affect 5,000.
Yes.
And that sounds like an exaggeration, but I don't think it is.
At all.
Because I've been there. I've been in the 20 audience crowd where I'm like, I will never, ever forget that. I think a lot about the sense of self and how it's very easy to lose it.
Yeah.
And I think, what I'm talking about is you give too much of yourself away to a partner, to a friend, to your family, work, whatever it might be. And that journey of kind of reclaiming your sense of self is something that I feel is a core theme to this book, because you are thinking about yourself. You're prompting us to write about ourselves. What's your story like with your sense of self?
I feel like I have spent a lot of time with myself, not by design, by accident, throughout my life, especially like teenage years. I went to school that was quite far away. It was like an hour and a half to school. So I'd spend a lot of time by myself on the bus. I was always interested in things that didn't necessarily have a lot of friends who were interested in the same kinds of things. So I would explore those by myself, move school quite often. So I would always end up kind of on the periphery of friendship groups. I always had friends. I know I've always, wherever you go, there are good people. I've always known good people. I've always been interested in enough things that I can make friends and stuff like that. But I've spent a lot of time basically feeling by myself. I think at the end of the day, no matter how popular you are or whether you've had the same friends for 100 years or all that kind of stuff, you always come back to yourself eventually. I found that especially at times where I was trying to escape from myself as well, which sounds super dramatic, but it's just more, sometimes you just get tired of being up there,
Yeah.
Like so it's a lot to just think about your own
I did
life
that for like 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I got to a point where I was kind of like, me really need to start getting along with this for life. Things are going to be, I don't want things to be this difficult all the time.
Yeah.
And gradually kind of you start peeling back layers and you start to investigate why you think certain things or why you feel certain things. I was lucky enough in the last 3 or 4 years to finally have like the resources to access therapy and things like that, which accelerated the process and all that kind of stuff. But I think, essentially, maybe when I was like 20, 21 is when I realized, no, I really, really want to start developing a better relationship with myself.
That's young. You got it young.
I really, which I say that now.
I was like 31.
I'm like, for context, I'm 27, so I feel like and now, nearing 30, I'm looking back and I'm like, that is quite young to have been developing those or having those thoughts.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that, because I feel like once you're able to do that, you see how everything else kind of follows suit. Like your relationship with people becomes so much better, and just
It's interesting when you look at the things that you really need, whether that be time for yourself, therapy, like a living room, a cat. You can tell I'm projecting here. That's when things start to kind of fall into place. And, I say like 31's old. It's not. I mean, my brother's 7 years older than me. I know he's going through something similar like this right now. And you will have 80-year-olds going through this now where they thought, oh my God, I've spent so much time doing this. Actually, I need to reclaim it. Again, it's never too late to reclaim your sense of self, is it?
I think I vacillate between concern and comfort. at the fact that as the older I get, the more I realize like there's actually no stage at which someone has everything all together or is free from or exempt from like that. Am I doing the right thing? Am I living my life the right way? Is there time to change things? All of that kind of stuff. Like no one's ever at a stage where, all right, completed it, never going to have those thoughts again. They're going to come back in some form.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make peace with that kind of now. But equally, I understand that it's just going to be something I'm going to have to navigate again and again.
Yeah.
Equally, it's something I've been able to navigate each time, and it's something that I will be able to navigate the next time.
When you're writing, when you sit down and writing, when you picture someone writing a book, it just even feels therapeutic, living vicariously through them. When you sit down and you start writing, what place are you in?
Very reflective and very focused as well. I think it takes a lot. Obviously, this book contains a lot of my own thoughts and my own feelings. And one of the things that really crossed my mind a lot of the times when I was writing is how often I had to question, like, what do I actually think about this? How do I actually feel about this?
Yeah.
You almost feel like because I'm living my life, these things should be to hand. I should be able to think of like how I felt at this time, and what I think about this idea. But there's so much. That's why they call it do the work, I guess, because there is so much work in actually literally figure out what you feel in the first place and then doing something with that information.
Yeah.
So it's a very reflective process. It's super cathartic, super cathartic, but they're also quite tiring as well. Like by the time I'm finished writing on any given day, I'm quite knackered. Equally, I feel like it's for a good reason. Even if no one were to read what I was writing, which obviously now I've read the book, hope that's never the case. But even if no one was reading what I was writing,
Even if one person reads it,
yeah, everything's worth it.
Do you realize how much you've changed over the years? Now, there's one thing having an idea since you were young, and then at some point you're going to get to your life. In the last however many decades, you would have experienced different things. You'd have different conversations. You would have been influenced by different things. It's okay to change. When I was 21, I was really like, I'm never going to change. This is who I am. And I don't think I've changed drastically, but of course I've changed. And I think that's a big thing in our personal lives, that we're scared of other change, but probably more scared of ourselves changing. How often do you hear that phrase? Oh, I've always said this. I've always thought that. I don't think that's like, just the world changes. You change.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's weird when you hear that, oh, you're going to change at some point or everyone changes. I don't know about you, but I used to think of it in terms of you will be a completely different person to who you are now. And that's why I kind of, absolutely I won't. Like, of course, and it's not that I'll be a completely different person. I'll just one day find myself thinking very differently about something I used to think very strongly about. And at that time, if you asked, I would have thought, yeah, I'm always going to think this. But then all of a sudden I find myself thinking very differently about it. Like you said, for good reason. I mean, wasn't the mark of a rational mind is to be presented with new information and change it, change what you think.
Right.
So yeah, writing this, in fact, that's actually one of the things that I need most reassurance over, where it's like, I'm writing these things and I'm so reluctant to write in absolutes and to say, this is how I think, this is what things are. Because I know for a fact, I could change my mind. I could change my mind about anything.
Yeah.
And I could feel differently about anything. So I really had to come to terms with, this is a very good reflection and representation of how I feel now, what I think now.
Yeah. And there's a way of writing of, you're not telling people.
Yes.
You're saying what you think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that doesn't mean you're forcing an idea down someone's throat. I like that. I feel that in lots of books, music. I mean, anything I'm kind of exposed to. I like feeling that I'm able to make up my own mind about something, given the tools that someone else has provided.
Absolutely, because these are like, and that's why the journal prompt aspect of the book is one of my favorite things, because it's very much, whoever gets this book, it's your book. It's not my book, it's your book. And you are hearing from me.
Yeah.
And you are experiencing joys that I've had, and I'm sharing them with you.
Yeah.
But ultimately, at the end of every chapter, and what do you think? How do you feel? Because this is your space to feel more than mine. I've already written it. I've done this processing. I've had these feelings. I want you to share in that process with me, because I know how good it's been for me, and I think it would be good for you.
It's like a good friend. You can have a conversation and you vent, and then after an hour of venting, so how are you? Tell me about you. You listened to a lot of Sampha when you were writing it.
I did.
Tell me about your relationship with Sampha's music.
I mean,
your parasocial relationship.
See, and this is the thing as well. We've never crossed paths. Hope to one day, just so I can thank him for his work. Equally, it's another of those things where I think there's a lot about music artists. You know how there are projects that change your life. Sampha's album Process, I think that was 2017. came out, and that was, I loved Sanford before that, for about 2014. That album specifically is, if you pushed me to say a favorite album of all time, I'd say that.
Yeah, brilliant.
And really changed my life. But I'm so aware that Sanford isn't the person who made Process in 2017. So if I were to meet him, I couldn't be like, oh my God, and Process and ask questions, like in-depth questions, because he might not even be in the same emotional space as when he made the album. It might even be the case that he made the album, got everything he wanted to get out, and actually doesn't want to talk about it again. I have no idea. I don't know personally. But
I always think you can tell an artist who'd be like, that made a lot of difference for me. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's the right way to,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's so calming. A lot of people can't or don't like listening to music when they read or write. But I actually, I almost need it. Like I need things that I know inside out. You know, music where like, I know the ad libs. I know when this hi hat is gonna kick in. I know that. I need music. I need music I know on a forensic level to concentrate. And Sanford is like, absolutely. Put that out almost in a flow state immediately. Like it's I'm
with you. When I was self-employed, I'm almost self-employed. I run my company. When I was unemployed, I would go home and just read. Well, go home from signing on and then just read, and the soundtracks to those times became such that specific. And if you hear those albums now, and I just go back to that place, the great album from Turnover called Good Nature. So I recommend that. Turnover. Also, I know the bassist of Sanford, Rosetta. She works at this great place near me in Deptford called the Matchstick Pie House. It's like a co-op run by 6, 7 people. Every night of the week, there's different music, different nights, different poetry. I should put you in touch,
please,
because this is exactly the kind of place that you would love.
I would, that literally sounds. I want to be there now.
101 part-time jobs. People work so many different jobs in their life. You've had different careers.
I've had different careers.
You've had different lives.
Yeah.
To the David Larbi we see today.
Yes.
I know you're in education.
Yes.
Which totally makes sense. But you were in finance.
Yeah.
So which came first?
Education. First ever official job where someone was just handing me money to do something was for a tuition center. Went to uni, was working in the stockroom of a car parts company.
Wow.
In my final year of uni, and shortly after, I was working as a purchase ledger clerk in an accounting department.
Okay. Serious business.
This is very serious. I've never been afraid of doing what I need to do for money. Even when I left my last full-time job to do content creation full-time, I had Indeed open as an open tab on my laptop for the year afterwards, because I was always like, if I need to, I'll go get a job. It doesn't matter what it is. If I need to make money, I'll go make money. Yeah. And then a year to the day after I left, I was like, okay, I'm closing this tab to officially say I believe myself enough. It's lasted for a year. Yeah. I believe you to make it last to continue to make it last. Brilliant. I mean, if I needed to open it again, I'd open it again, but I haven't. Thank goodness. But yeah, so yeah, at finance, I worked for a company that sold COVID test kits in 2020. That was after. I mean, I thought I had a really good opportunity. I did have a really good opportunity in immersive theatre. I was working in a role that was supposed to last from October till March, so it was like a good,
as an actor.
Yeah, so it was a good stretch, and I was acting, singing, and dancing in that. I'd done all of them kind of part time at uni for fun, and then someone who I'd gone to uni with and who had done drama was working as part of the production. She goes, I know you do all this stuff. Would you want to audition for this role? Audition. This was after I left my finance job. I auditioned, got the role. I was like, okay, cool. 6 months of this, I can get my, kind of meet people in the theatre world. Maybe I can go down this path. And then the second lockdown came, so kind of, and the production company had to fold. So couldn't do that anymore. Went to work for a company that sold COVID test kits, but at the same time I was publishing my poetry online and trying to share my music and all that kind of stuff. And then about 8 months into that job, I was like, no, I think we're ready for a second go at trying to do something creative full time. Yeah.
The immersive theatre, I love that. You're kind of seeing that more and more. I've got a friend who's just doing the drunk theatre. Do you know about that one?
No.
It's at Soho. It's at the Soho Theatre. Not this one. Someone had done it. It's drunk theatre. I forgot the name of it. Anyway, did you study theatre? Did you study acting?
No, I didn't. All my closest friends from university did drama, and it's because when I got to university, I did English and French. When I got to university, it's the first time I met people who had chosen to do something creative with their life. And before, I went to quite an academic sixth form. And even I feel like throughout school, the messaging is very much go to school, go to uni, get a good job.
Do what you're told.
And even me doing English and French, at first I wanted to do law, did a law placement in sixth form. I was like, I am going to hate this. So I changed to English and French. And even that felt like too avant-garde. You know?
Rocking the boat,
Got to uni and I was like, wow, you guys have at 18, I was like, the biggest decision anyone could ever possibly make, i.e. what to study at uni. You guys have used that on drama. That is unbelievable. You guys are rock stars. Like, this is unbelievable. And just the passion for doing something creative to the point where it's like, this is what I want to do in my life at 18. Even now, I'm saying it. I feel like it's more impressive to me now than it was even then. Because it's like, absolutely, I'm going to bet myself.
You're going against everything you've been told.
Absolutely. So I admired them so much, and they very much welcomed me with open arms. And I'd always been good at that stuff, but I'd never been allowed to take it seriously.
Yeah. Did that come from your parents?
Not so much. My mom has always been very supportive. Like, if you're happy with it, I'm happy with it. But a little bit more so, kind of, I want to see where what you're doing is going to lead you. And I feel like it's a big thing with African parents, Caribbean parents, where it's very much. I understand it. The way I put it to one of my friends the other day is, I get, as a parent, when you care about your child, especially if you've moved from somewhere else to give them a better quality of life than you had, it's very much, I want you to be stable. I want you to be safe and stable.
Give them the garden.
Absolutely.
We want them to have the big garden.
Absolutely. If I can understand from a parent's perspective, I want to close my eyes and be able to see what my child is doing and how they're going to be safe. If I was doing law, my mom could close her eyes right now. It's what, 2:30 p.m. on a Thursday. I'd be in the office, finding a brief, or I'd be in court, whereas now, it's on any average Thursday, I can be doing anything. I can be anywhere. And I get the unease that causes. And I feel like a lot of our parents don't want to be that. This is what I was saying earlier about friends and family being discouraging. It's not that they're actively discouraging you. It's not that they don't want you to be happy or they don't want you to succeed at certain thing. It's just that they can't see how it's going to work, and you have to take that on your own shoulders. Whereas, and even you can't necessarily see how it's going to work. But the difference is that I care about it enough that I know I'll do what I need to do, and I don't necessarily know what that is. But when I see it, I'll know it.
Yeah, and that is, I'm going to go out and say it. Capitalism, right, wants you to play it safe all the time, and I don't think you need to be mad into your conspiracy theories to understand why people in high positions of power want people to just do what they're told and not think too much for themselves. And I think that is part of the conversation here. Isn't it funny how a lot of negativity, a lot of fights can come from someone caring? Yeah.
And then it's I don't know, it's not to digress too much, but it's I think about this a lot, that someone caring can cause a fight, and then you almost have to, I accept that this person cares about me, but equally the way they're expressing their care is doing me harm. And I need to be free of that harm somehow, whether it's through them explaining to them where they understand me, or make them upset temporarily until they get to a point where they can understand. But ultimately the understanding part is for them. It's a place for them to get to rather than a place for me to lead them to. There's
that middle ground. It's like what we were saying at the start of this conversation, not to sound like a typical podcaster, but it's like you got the start and you start something and you want to see the outcome. You don't know what's in the middle. That's the gray area. I mean, that's the stuff that I love, but I understand a lot of people just find it very hard. You know, I totally understand that because it's difficult. You don't know what's going on. It's confusing. Scary. So you worked in finance. You worked on all different types of jobs. Sounds like. What was one that you feel like you learned the most from? In terms of, emotionally, maybe it's you worked with someone, the type of person with the type of background who you'd never met someone like that before, and you learned from them a few things.
When I worked in accounting, my boss was called Sean Ellis. Sean Ellis is a great man. Sean is a great man. Sean grew up in Grimsby, got into accounting, has worked in accounting, and always says he's not a good accountant, but he's done really well. So he's constantly self-deprecating, but he's a fantastic person and very good at many things. When we worked in the office together, we used to pass each other poetry. We started a poem that we would add lines to each time that I was in the office.
Brilliant.
And Sean is one of those people who, if he'd been given a creative part to pursue, he would have done it, would have been great at it. It's just that the opportunities weren't there at the time. But now he writes poetry or write lyrics, so we share poetry together all the time, and we're always catching up on the things we're doing. When the book came out beginning of this year, I had a book launch in February, and Sean was there front and center. And obviously I haven't worked there for years, and he left just before I left, and a year later maybe, we hadn't spoken at all, and he called me maybe like 11 or maybe 1 on a Tuesday. And I picked up. He said, "Oh, good. I was hoping you'd pick up, because if you hadn't picked up, it would mean you're in the office. And if you're in the office, you'd still be in the wrong place. You shouldn't have been there in the first place." And just to have someone who no reason to care about me the way he did, no reason to mentor me the way he did or kind of take me under his wing, but very much saw my creative nature and managed to nurture that in an accounting office. Like that's not an easy thing
fertile
to do.
ground.
Not at all. But just speaks volume to the kind of person he is.
It's so nice when that happens, and I feel like I've been on both sides of that, and it's quite an easy thing to actually do. It's quite an easy thing to just ask someone how they are, but the impact can be really, really substantial.
It can be huge. I think with creative people, especially, obviously creative people tend to be sensitive. Like we tend to really care about things. And I think, I don't know, I'm sure you'll have experienced this, where it's kind of, someone takes a very small interest in what you're doing. And especially when you're doing creative stuff and it's not successful, not many people are paying attention to it. Like the smallest crumb of, oh, you're interested in what I'm doing, that can keep you going for a few days. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that happens to me now.
Yeah. And especially when it comes from people you like. Again, there are people you expect it from, or the people who are up to date with what you're doing, but especially when it's people who you wouldn't expect necessarily to care about it. Yeah. When they say something, it could really touch you.
Have you been surprised by people who have reached out over the years about what you do?
Massively. Especially since this book came out. Because when I was writing it, all I was thinking was, this has to be, I really need this to be good enough for people to read. Imposter syndrome is strong because I already had proof of concept. I knew people enjoyed my poetry and enjoyed my writing kind of thing. But again, this is my first ever published book. This is a big deal. And I just wanted to make sure it was good enough. By the time it was coming out, I've been told enough by people whose opinions I respect, this is a good book. So I was like, okay, great. This is a good book. I really wasn't prepared for people messaging me, telling me things like, this book has really changed my perspective. It's really changed my life. I read this every day. Just things like that. It's like, super humbling.
That's brilliant.
Super humbling. Like, it's like, wow. Like, I mean, this is what I hoped for, but I had no idea what to expect if it actually happened.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel, I feel like grateful doesn't even begin to cover it. Equally, I'd say actually one of the things this year has really pointed out to me is how much, and it might sound strange, but I do need to work on my sense of self-worth a little bit more. I almost feel like I owe people something for enjoying my book, which doesn't actually make sense, because it's like, they enjoyed my book because I put so much into it and I made it good for them. Like, that was the intention. I made it good so that it would make a positive difference to people. So that's kind of, that loop is kind of closed. Me saying I don't feel good enough to receive this kind of love in return is opening a new loop, which needs to be closed with, but you do deserve that kind of love in return. You did write a good book. So it's been again, another emotional journey after an emotional journey.
I think you can do that as well without being arrogant. If you're like, I love your book, it's so good, and someone's like, I know. That wouldn't be a very good person to hang out with. Not that everyone should be a good person to hang out with, I don't know. But to me, that's maybe what's important. I want to be good to hang out with. I also want to hang out with good people.
Likewise, yeah.
Just to end with, also thank you to the collab for having us in Walthamstow.
Thank you, yeah.
Nice place. It's a good village around here, isn't it? Village vibe.
Yeah.
You got the roads, you got the strip. That's what I like. I like living in somewhere where there's a strip and you go in and out of it.
The market, yeah, it's nice.
I'm sure loads of people around here, growing up around here, have worked lots of different odd jobs when they're trying to. Everywhere people have worked odd jobs.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about doing odd jobs is that you're there for a short time. You probably don't know exactly what you're doing or how to do it, or maybe even why you're there to do it. And that often ends up in calamity. And I very much enjoy the schadenfreude, the laughing at someone else's pain of previous work gaffes, errors in the workplace. I have always made mistakes. I was just thinking about the time that, I just completely, I got caught lying on my dissertation at uni, and even though it's not a job, but it was still like, oh my God, okay, that's a really big fuck up. Have you had any particularly memorable, hopefully not too sad, we want to err on the side of funny here, but funny mistakes in the workplace?
Oh, great question. I used to work, one of the odd jobs I had when I was at university, one day someone posted on, like, you've got those university pages where people are selling a table or whatever. And so I was like, I work at this car parts company. They're looking for someone to help in the stockroom. It's literally just stacking boxes. But it was a company that sold like luxury car parts.
Expensive car parts.
Expensive car parts. Like to the point where I was like, there's this kind of money in the world for someone to pay this for like.
And there's the markup. If something's £100 where you work, it's going to maybe go for 1,000.
Yes.
There's a huge markup there, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, this one is funny because it all ended fine. But I was there in the stockroom. There'll be weeks where it was heaving, and there were weeks where it was kind of empty. And on a heaving week, I was trying to stack boxes, kind of like Tetris, and boxes kind of fell on me, and I'm holding these boxes up to try and keep them in the right so they don't fall on the floor. And kind of quickly reached the realization that I have no hands free. No one knows I'm that. Feasibly, no one can come and see me till the end of my shift in 4 hours' time. These boxes can't hit the floor because there are precious things in them. But I need someone to come and save me. Like I actually, so I had to make okay. How do I let as few boxes as possible hit the floor, so I'm not in that much trouble, but enough that someone will hear me upstairs? So I was shouting, no one was hear me, and I had to let 3 or 4 boxes hit the floor. So I just hope that things weren't that damaged.
Damage control.
It felt like Tom and Jerry. Like it was.
It's funny in those places. I feel like those places are rife for that kind of enjoyment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that. You should always have fun. Like it's sometimes I think it's healthy to have fun behind your boss's back. And just fuck around in the warehouse.
Oh yeah, I think it's a very positive thing. There's always that having fun behind the authorities' back is always there. Even I was with all my siblings last week. I've got 4 siblings. We don't all manage to see each other at the same time very often. So it's always great what we do. And with my mum, it was just so funny how often we're sneaking glances or making inside jokes behind my. It's like this never. Like, I'm 27, but this doesn't change. Like having fun behind the boss's back is necessary.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
So we did touch on it earlier, but that idea of failing, and obviously people talk about failing a lot in the last few years. It is a thing, and something I think about failing is that it's just not as simple as that sounds. When someone says you have to fail to then kind of get it right, that in itself is very painful. To not go over it, to not go under it, not to skip ahead, shortcut it, but to go through that emotion is actually quite difficult, and it's a different feeling. It's raw for everyone.
Yeah. Ultimately, failure is disappointment. There are things that are objective failures, as in I set out for this objective and it didn't happen. That to me is a failure. And other people might also say, yeah, this failed. But ultimately, the only reason failure matters is because it's disappointing. Like it's really disappointing. It's disappointing and it's painful to fail. But there is a point where that pain ceases. In every single failure that's ever happened, there's a point where that pain ceases if you continue going. One of my biggest objective failures, because I think of a lot of my failures now more as disappointment than failure. One of my biggest objective failures was university. When going to university, the university place I didn't get the grades for the university I wanted. So results day opened my grades and hadn't got the grades I needed for my university place. And that was an objective failure. Like I didn't do well enough for what I needed, for what I wanted to do. And that day, August 18th, 2016, I thought my life was over. It's all over. Like it's absolutely all over. And I still look back on that, and objectively, yes, for me, that's what I can describe as a failure, because I didn't do what I set out to do. Am I still, was my life over that day? Obviously not. And now I look back at it, it was a disappointment. It just took a while for me to see it was a disappointment rather than just a failure, if that makes sense. It
does. Disappointment's a lot more manageable.
Yes, disappointment's a lot more manageable. Failure is like, what do you do with a failure? Failure almost pushes you to try and hide it or pretend it didn't happen, but failure is the consequence of having tried. So
failure is conclusive. Disappointment has a future.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, exactly that.
Give me a call. I like that. I also think of something as disappointment. I feel like it's something that you can almost sort of try and eradicate. So if you don't feel, I don't want to say numb, that sounds too negative, but if you don't care about being disappointed, there's something beautiful as well in just like getting back up again and like not being put off when someone says no and just keep on going back. You actually don't lose anything. The only way you'd lose there is by not getting back up again.
Exactly. Yeah. It lasts. Yeah. It lasts as long as it lasts.
David, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you.
Great stuff. Cheers for watching. This is 101 Part-Time Jobs. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, and all podcast apps. We've done interviews with Aurora, Kneecap, Idols, Lauren Maybury of Churches, and loads more. So tap into 101 Part-Time Jobs on Spotify, Apple, and all podcast apps.